That forget America, white America is an irredeemably racist country, and that the only course for the Negroes is to bring about a final, violent, apocalyptic confrontation of black and white.
As Governor of the State of Michigan, I do hereby officially request the immediate deployment of federal troops into Michigan to assist state and local authorities in reestablishing law and order in the city of Detroit. I am joined in this request by Jerome P. Kavanaugh, Mayor of the city of Detroit.
Pillage, looting, murder, and arson have nothing to do with civil rights.
You're going to sit in front of your television set and listen to LBJ tell you that violence never accomplishes anything, my fellow Americans. But you see, the real problem with violence is that we have never been violent. We have been too nonviolent.
Boys, there ain't no countries anymore. No more good guys. They're running the whole show. They own everything, the whole goddamn planet. They can do whatever they want. What's wrong with having it good for a change? Now, they're going to let us have it good if we just help them. They're going to leave us alone, let us make some money. You can have a little taste of that good life, too. Now, I know you want it. Hell, everybody does.
You do it to your own kind.
What's the threat? We all sell out every day. Might as well be on the winning team.
The world today has 6.8 billion people. That's headed up to about 9 billion. Now, if we do a really great job on new vaccines, health care, reproductive health services, we could lower that by perhaps 10 or 15%.
$10 billion over the next 10 years to make it the year of the vaccines. What does that mean exactly?
Well, over this decade, we believe unbelievable progress can be made, both inventing new vaccines and making sure they get out to all the children who need them. And the benefits there in terms of reducing sickness, reducing the population growth, it really allows the society a chance to take care of itself once you've made that intervention.
First episode of the Coon Chronicles. Mainstream news, the propaganda arm of the oppressor class. They stay hard at work using every strategy and tactic available in their arsenal to condition the society form of thinking. One of these blatant and open tactics or strategies is to use black reporters to communicate the evildoers' messages to the program-conditioned classes.
My goodness. Well, the numbers back it up. Coronavirus is killing African Americans at an alarming rate, especially here in Detroit.
And that's why the NAACP is urging Michigan leaders to use caution before reopening the state. Larry Spruill reports the president of the Detroit branch has a message for Governor Whitmer.
It's too soon. That's what Reverend Anthony with the NAACP is saying about Governor Whitmer possibly opening up the state next month. He says there are too many issues still on the table, and this may be the wrong move.
Well, essentially, Larry, what we're simply saying is that don't make your move too soon.
That's the passionate request Reverend Wendell Anthony is making to Governor Gretchen Whitmer on behalf of the NAACP branch here in Detroit. Anthony tells me on a Zoom interview Friday he knows the governor is getting pressured to return things back to normal, but he says there is so much at stake.
Don't listen to the pundits and the folk who just want to open up for the sake of opening up. People are still dying. There's not enough testing.
It's an issue, Anthony says, many are talking about, but not doing enough about it.
Until we have testing in the neighborhoods around the city, and we have logged the impact totally and with specificity as to their impact on black and brown people in the city of Detroit and around this state, until we have the proper PPE equipment, until we have the proper doctors and nurses, until we have a vaccine that can be on the scene and can protect us from this pandemic, I'm hesitant to do that.
Governor Whitmer mentioned that she could lift certain parts of the stay-at-home ban on May 1st, but Anthony simply wants her to take her time.
If they can assure and guarantee that ain't nobody else gonna get COVID-19 on May 1, I'm good to go. But if you can't guarantee that, if you can't assure that, then I would say let's be cautious. You only get one chance to do this thing right, Larry.
Then they will cut to a Reverend Obule bootlicking, butter biscuit eating, meritorious manumission seeking, agreeable Negro. These bootlicking shambles work in the interest and for the benefit of the oppressor class. He has yet to take ex-Governor Snyder to task on chemical warfare against black residents of Flint, also for the 47% illiteracy rate for Detroit, and the illegal foreclosures on homes in Detroit.
Governor Whitmer says she will present a more detailed plan next week. Reporting in downtown Detroit, Larry Spruill, Local 4.
Okay, Larry, and during this afternoon's press conference, Governor Whitmer said she will not be pressured into reopening the state. The governor said it will be done gradually and backed by data and science.
Right now, we have a nefarious testing agenda on black people for the coronavirus pandemic in Detroit. The racist media organizations in Detroit have worked to make the face of COVID-19 black Detroiters.
Well, this man admits he was somewhat skeptical about the virus at first, but that was all until it started affecting his own blood one by one.
I don't wish this on anyone.
It's been nothing but a world of grief lately for Gary Whitfield.
Every day is a different day for me. I don't know whether I'm going to be emotionally drained and stressed out and crying and mourning.
Just weeks ago, he lost.
To see this evening on West Outer Drive as scores of police cars, fire trucks, and other emergency vehicles formed a lengthy procession to support two of their own.
Lavondria and Ebby Herbert, two Detroit first responders, lost their 5-year-old daughter, Skylar, to COVID-19. Jason Colthorpe was there for this outpouring of love and support.
Back to layers of the NAACP. A lot of you know that it was founded by white people. So if you look at why our situation and our status has not really changed, and they're never there for any real fight or struggle that African Americans do have, is because it's a universalist, integrationalist group that was formed to basically control black people. And that's why you really don't see them assisting or helping black people, from way of being lynched continuously by the police, killed and lynched by the police, judicial injustice that we experience as African Americans, the medical apartheid that we experience. They're there for nothing, but they fight for the dreamers and DACA and shit like that. You see them come out in large support. But let's go behind it. It was founded in February 12, 1909. The NCAA founded by white people. A brief history. On February 12, 1909, the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, the NAACP, was founded by a coalition of white Americans and African Americans. The idea of this organization was conceived originally by 3 white civil rights activists: Mary White Ovington, Unitarian; William English Walling, wealthy married Jewish woman; and Henry Moskowitz, Romanian Jewish immigrants to U.S. While meeting in New York, the race riot of 1908 in Springfield, Illinois was the impetus for forming the NAACP. Pause. Do you think it's a mere coincidence that Jews founded the NAACP? To control black people. They've been doing this shit forever. Their hands and everything controlling. So that's why when you hear a bootlick like this goddamn Reverend, or all these other bootlicks that staff these branches of the NAACP, they all sound more like blackface white supremacists. That's what they sound like. That's their ideology, the whole nine. They don't fucking care about black people. They're just blackface white supremacists. So when you see them, just because they look black, don't mean that they are black or have black interests at the forefront. All right, digging deeper. The Caucasian activists were convinced that white people would have to run an advocacy organization such as the NAACP because they perceived the problem with race relations as caused by white bias and hatred, the source of the problem. In this regard, invitations were sent to 60 prominent Americans thought to be of potential assistance to the cause. So nefarious, is it not? With a meeting date of February 12, 1909, this date became the traditional date used as the founding of the NAACP, and was chosen because it was the 100th anniversary of the birth of Abraham Lincoln. Of course, these founders were smart enough to realize that African American participation was also vital and prominent. Yeah, controlled Negroes agreeable Negroes, not no field niggas. Was also vital and prominent African American civil rights activists, including W.E. Du Bois, Ida B. Wells, and Archibald Grimke were included. The white people involved in the organization and early conduct of the NAACP had a distinct trend toward being well conditioned by miseducation, misinformation. So that's why, again, same thing goes on to this day right now outside of in every white organization. They want niggas with these credentials because they've been so conditioned in their socialized education. They look for a certain type of brain archetype. A Jesus freak from that slave doctrine, know that they bowing really to Baphomet. Yes, Lucifer. Yeah, I said it. And yes, it's the fucking truth. That's why you see them always putting these reverends and these old goddamn backwards ass Christians in these key positions. And then you see the outcome. They all be some shuckling, jiving, bowing, broken ass Negroes. That again, that does not have black people interest at the forefront or well-being as well. All right, yeah, the white people that were involved in the organization and early conduct had a distinct trend towards being well-educated and somewhat well-off, as well as strong Jewish, look at this, see this, as well as a strong Jewish influence. Now tell me, when have Jewish ever held black interests at the forefront? See, even over in Israel, they throw out the dark-skinned fucking Jews. They have this classism as well. It's all about power and control. All right. Many of the organizers and early participants had socialist leanings. Many had come from abolitionist, workers' rights, and suffragist backgrounds. Moorfield Story, a white attorney, was the first president of W. Du Bois, was the only African American board member on the initial board. Du Bois was in charge of publications. Yeah, don't put the nigga with the money. Don't put the nigga in planning and strategy. We just go put a nigga with regurgitating the information that we want. Is that not the example that I just gave you with the news reporters? The black news reporters who hit on the issues to make sure that black people pay attention. Then they swing in one of these old reverends or some old boule ass nigga to further ease and condition your nigga ass. All right, hold on. The NAACP fought the racially discriminatory Jim Crow laws common in the U.S. before World War II and sought to gain education and fair treatment under the law for African Americans. The NAACP brought lynchings to light and sought justice and allied with the labor unions. Hold on. You see, they brought lynchings to light and sought justice. Have we seen them bring for these new forms, these evolved forms of lynching by the police and these goddamn serial killing fucking crackers? I'm sorry, I don't see them bringing any fucking cases now. The creation of the Legal Defense Fund in 1939 was a major development. James Johnson became the first African American secretary in 1920. Remember, this shit was formed in 1909, and they didn't really start putting niggas in the key places to, I ain't gonna say the secretary was a key in 1920. So 11 years later, they put a black secretary. That might have been, the secretary might handle some of the monetary aspects of it. And in 1934, Surgeon General Lewis Wright became the first African American chairman of the board. So, about 30 damn years, 25 fucking years it took them to put a chairman. But it's supposed to be an organization looking out for the benefit of African Americans. This shit is so diabolical. All right, and then no woman. Now listen to this shit. Listen to this male misogynistic bullshit, right? But then you have all these goddamn women running to this shit. No woman has ever headed the NAACP except temporarily. No woman. I'll repeat that again for all you goddamn women want to run around here on this Me Too movement shit and equal and fair pay and all this shit. Well, we have a human rights organization for African Americans and shit, but y'all ain't never had a woman. Where y'all at, Black Girl Magic? Huh? Why the fuck I gotta be the one to speak out on this shit? Y'all should have been washed the fucking NAACP ass up. All right, no woman has ever headed the NAACP except temporarily. What's her name? Rachel Dolezal. Remember the white girl that was faking like she was motherfucking black? See, this is why they let this bitch in. Because they know that the whole organization is washed, is fake as fuck. They let, again, the white, and nobody remember that story. Just look up her name, Rachel Dolezal. Then all right, the NAACP played a pivotal role as a premier African-American advocacy organization during the civil rights era. It continues today with over 300, listen to this, 300,000 members and the hundreds of branches. So all these branches and 300,000 motherfucking members sound like a little small army to me, but you can't come in and get one goddamn governor who poisoned a fucking city. You can't come and get where we have educational inequality in Michigan, where there's a 47% illiteracy rate. And you can't come fix this shit, huh? This should be right up your alley, right? Oh, hold on. Or the housing foreclosure. Where the fuck are y'all at? Where? On any of these big ass dire issues in the black community. I'm not gonna get to the police shootings in every goddamn state, serial killing motherfuckers killing black people. Tell me what issue, which you got 300,000 goddamn members and all these branches, what have y'all done to make black people life better? I ain't talking about the fucking Jim Crow era where you no, I know what it was. Basically, I'm gonna tell you like this. This is what it's formed for you to integrate with motherfucking crackers, and crackers still hold the power. That's what this fucking group was about. That's the history, past and fucking present. Those are the facts. All right, let me see where did I leave off at? Then it's brought lynching. No. All right. Oh, I was done. Yeah, so they fucking washed. I'm done with them. When we come out of this goddamn the leftists against the right wing war between these two white supremacist fucking organizations and shit, we should be building and getting ourselves together. So when this shit is over and it's done, we need to wash all these motherfuckers, these goddamn groups. If you ain't black first, if you over there running for some goddamn new arrival rights and immigrants' rights over fundamental black Americans, descendants of slaves, we washing your ass. That's how we stepping in the future. No more games. It's time to start washing these motherfuckers, because we at war and we fucking losing bad. All right, let's take a look at, this better not go off. Let's take a look at two of the founding members. Mary White Ovington. I'm not going to even read it because I'm just going to just show you the information, and you should, again, do your own due diligence by going to do your own research and pull this information. I'm letting you see how I gather the information, but my background would be called the intelligence, all right? Grabbing the information to use for intelligence. And you see the methods of how I'm grabbing information, and it's simplified. You can do this on your smartphone or on your laptop, but letting you see the founding members right here. And hold up, right, boom. So these are the founding members. So now you get a good idea why the NAACP really just take on immigrant issues or integrationist issues. That's why, again, they have no problem with gentrification. Actually, that's another good point that I did not bring up. You don't really see them fighting in any city, the integrationists. And I strike that, not integration, is what I'm looking for. Gentrification, right? You don't see them even fighting the gentrification. This is why. This is where their roots are. All right, I'm going to make this one short. This is not going to be long and drawn out. You have the information, and I'm showing you the method on gathering your own. Be a truth seeker and a truth sayer. And we need more soldiers in this war in digital advocacy. So be a reading individual, because as you do see, Just don't be on here making videos. Read and properly research to pass the knowledge on. That's what we need to do.
So there is manpower enough if the goal were to actually save people, but resources are not being utilized properly or to full capacity in a way that maximizes the patient benefit or improves the outcomes. The records and charting are crap. And now some of these hospitals in New York City are probably crappy on a good day. So you add in the fear of COVID and the fear of the whole pandemic and forget it. So if you're in a crappy hospital with crappy nurses, let's face it, all of us nurses have worked with crappy nurses before who don't care. So now you add in this, forget it. And they're having people do things that they can't do. So maybe things that they're not proficient in. So maybe a nurse who's not familiar or comfortable with using a ventilator. And it's that figure it out mentality. Figure it out. These patients are critical and they're crashing, figure it out. So nurses are being celebrated as heroes, right? We see how like the fire trucks and the police are like lining up and practically having these parades and celebrating them as heroes. And don't get me wrong, I'm sure in some parts of the country and other ICUs, I have friends that are working on the front lines in ICU and they are good nurses and some of them are heroes. But we have nurses being celebrated as heroes who are killing people. They're not heroes. And they're being brainwashed to think they're doing something great just by going to work because they're brave enough to go to work. Well, what are you doing at work? You're certainly not saving people if you're not even running codes. You're not even going into patient rooms. You're a coward. You're hurting people. You're killing them. You're contributing to the problem. I know I'm going to get hate mail for this, and that's fine, because people are dying who don't have to die. Again, there's no family there, so no one's being held accountable. And once these people get intubated, they're being scared into giving consent to be intubated, and then for a lot of them, it's over. And there's nobody going to be held accountable. And there's nobody looking out for them. They are completely by themselves. There's like a total lack of critical thinking. It's out the window. And people are scared to speak up. And one person alone isn't going to change the overall culture of a hospital or a system or a city. Like I said, Dr. Cameron Kyle Seidel's video was pulled from YouTube. And he was pulled from the ICU for sounding the alarm and going against the grain. So people are sounding the alarm. It's just not changing anything, apparently. So what can you do? Buck the system. I'm really fortunate I don't have any family in New York City that I personally have to worry about. If there are people that you are worried about, or maybe it's not even New York City, maybe you're in another city that's being really hard hit and you're just hearing really bad things coming out of that city, buck the system. Something is wrong in the system. So go against the grain. Request records immediately. Records, transcripts, immediately. If there's a medication that you want your loved one to be given, report it as an at-home medication and demand that it be continued. That's just a tip from inside the system. If you want a medication to be given, you've got to report that it's an at-home medication and that you demand that it be continued. Your loved one is not going to have you in there advocating for them once they go in. You're not allowed in. The only reports that we're able to get of what's going on are coming from the inside, and people are afraid to speak out. People have lost their jobs. Do not give consent for intubation if you don't want to be intubated or your loved one to be intubated. Demand non-invasive or less invasive ventilation methods. As soon as you give that consent, you might not come out of it. Now, in some cases, it might be appropriate. We just don't know. We know that it's being used inappropriately in a lot of cases, and that the ventilators are making people worse.
Nearly 2,400 years ago in ancient Greece, Plato discussed the importance of population control. Aristotle advocated the use of abortion and infanticide. In 1798, an essay on the principle of population was written by Thomas Malthus. He outlined the idea of positive checks, which are diseases, wars, disasters, famines, and genocides. Malthus believed that these things should be utilized to increase the death rate, and believed that human misery was an absolute necessary consequence. In 1859, Charles Darwin published The Origin of Species. In it, Darwin only hinted at the implications of human populations, but his cousin, Sir Francis Galton, became obsessed with the idea. In 1883, Galton published Inquiries into Human Faculty and Its Development, wherein he wrote that his intention is to touch on various topics more or less connected with that of the cultivation of race, or, as we might call it, with eugenic. The term comes from the Greek word eugenis, of noble birth. In the early 20th century, eugenics became an academic discipline in universities. Organizations were formed and funded to win public support. The Kaiser Wilhelm Institute and the Cold Spring Harbor Institute rejected the idea that all humans are born equal and began selling the idea of cultivating a new master race of noble bloodlines. Planned Parenthood was formed in America by racial eugenics advocate Margaret Sanger. President of IBM, Thomas J. Watson, established a special subsidiary in Poland called Watson Business Machines to assist in the Nazi invasion of Poland. This business continued throughout the war, and IBM managed the entire operation from their headquarters in New York. During the Nuremberg trials, the Nazis quoted U.S. Supreme Court Justice Oliver Wendell Holmes in their own defense. They claimed that their eugenics program was being run from the United States. The Nazis were rightly admonished for war crimes, but not Thomas Watson. He went on to create the IBM World Trade Corporation and passed IBM on to his son. His granddaughter ended up marrying Margaret Sanger's grandson. Bill Gates' father worked on the board for Planned Parenthood, and his mother worked on the corporate board for IBM, who Bill partnered with to create Microsoft. With no medical background, Bill Gates then went on to become the world's foremost pusher of vaccines and population control. Do you think this is all coincidence? The Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation funds the WHO, the NIH, the CDC, and the UN. And now he is saying that until we get mass vaccinations, we might never be able to gather in groups.
And which activities like mass gatherings may be, in a certain sense, more optional. And so until you're widely vaccinated, those may not come back at all.
The president's coronavirus response team are all pushing the Bill Gates vaccination agenda. Dr. Fauci is on the leadership council for the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. In January of 2017, Anthony Fauci told a crowd at Georgetown University that there would be a surprise outbreak during the Trump presidency.
There is no question that there will be a challenge to the coming administration in the arena of infectious diseases, both chronic infectious diseases in the sense of already ongoing disease, and we have certainly a large burden of that, but also there will be a surprise outbreak.
Deborah Birx is a board member for the Global Fund to Fight AIDS, Tuberculosis, and Malaria, which was founded by the Gates Foundation and known for millions of dollars of fraudulent misuse of funds. In October of 2019, Bill Gates sponsored Event 201, a simulation that estimated 65 million people killed by coronavirus. In November of 2019, the Purebright Institute, funded by Bill Gates, was granted European patent number EP3172319B1 for a coronavirus vaccine that may be used to treat humans. Today, Dr. Fauci says the virus will keep coming back, and he says the ultimate game changer will be a new vaccine. In Australia, the Prime Minister is telling people the shutdown will last months, that it's the new normal, and that the only way out...
And now, the governor in the AP of New York is saying it will never end. That's right.
There's no such thing as a nonviolent revolution. The only kind of revolution that's nonviolent is the Negro revolution. The only revolution based on loving your enemy is the Negro revolution. That's no revolution. A revolution is bloody. Revolution is hostile. Revolution knows no compromise. Revolution overturns and destroys everything that gets in its way. and you sitting around here like a knot on the wall saying I'm going to love these folks no matter how much they hate me.
You call us savages and beasts and mad dogs running the street burning and looting, but we're doing this not for the destruction of the world, but we're trying to prove one point. We want freedom and justice and equality. We want to be treated equal. The best thing to do is give us freedom or at this place a riot with blood.
Here in Detroit, a city of war.